It Ends With Us is in theaters now, so grab your friends, wear your florals, and head out to see it.
First of all, I want men to stop asking the question, why do women stay?
Yeah.
Right? I want men to take accountability.
It is a really nice thing to see with friends.
Having him be director, but also scene partner.
I mean, what an intense job, like to have to do so many things.
But I also think you should expect to laugh and also be like, ooh, ah, pretty.
This has been a passion project and something that has been so near and dear to my heart.
Yeah.
I think Blake Lively's ready to direct. That's what I think. So.
But there is a limit to what you can girly pop, and you cannot girly pop domestic violence.
Someone sound the alarm. We have another Don't Worry Darling cast drama situation on our hands. As everyone knows, the new release of It Ends With Us just premiered in theaters this past weekend, and amidst all the press releases and red carpet interviews, people are picking up on the fact that maybe the castmates don't get along with each other. Specifically, director and co-lead Justin Baldoni was pictured interviewing by himself. He hasn't taken a single picture with any of the other cast on the red carpet. He was by himself the whole time, and when asked questions about him, the other castmates seemed to dodge the question and refuse to talk about him directly, which has led to a lot of speculation about maybe a potential drama that's happening behind the scenes that we don't know about. Things are coming to light, and as of now, I hesitate to call them news sources, but sources from the Daily Mail and Page Six have come out with articles saying that Justin Baldoni may have been taking on characteristics of his character in the movie and that he made a quote-unquote harmful environment on set. So in this video, we'll be going through everything we know now about the drama that's going on with the cast. I'll be going through the Daily Mail interview as well as some of the other press releases and press tours that the cast have been doing and kind of dissecting it to try and figure out what is going on with these people. And because this is a developing story and because, these are A-list celebrities that I have no concept of their lives and who they are, this is all alleged. I have zero clue about the validity of any of these. I can only speculate, so please take this with a grain of salt. So without further ado, let's get into it. So let's start with a little bit of background. So Justin Baldoni is an actor. You may know him, I know him at the very least, as Rafael Solano on Jane the Virgin. He also has his own film studio called Wayfarer. Wayfarer has produced movies such as 5 Feet Apart, which is also based on a book, and it's about cystic fibrosis, okay? So under Wayfarer, Justin Baldoni acquired the rights to produce It Ends With Us, the film. This happened back in 2019. It is now 2024, so this movie has been 5 years in the making. This was his passion project. He wanted to make a impactful movie with It Ends With Us. So originally, Justin Baldoni signed on to be the director of the film, but then Colleen Hoover, who is the writer of the original book, convinced him to be the actor that plays Ryle. At first, he was like, I don't want to do that. I don't know if I can do it justice. I'm not really cool with playing Ryle, but Colleen convinced him that he would be perfect for the role, and he eventually took it. Now, his co-star, Blake Lively, is also credited not only as the female lead, but she is also a producer on this film alongside Colleen Hoover. So for those of us that aren't film bros, the difference between a director and a producer, according to the internet, because again, I'm not a film bro, producer is more in charge of the quote-unquote business side of the project, doing all the not so fun tasks that go into making a film, whereas the director is more in charge of the creative aspect, trying to execute on a specific vision that they have. So together, Blake Lively, Colleen Hoover, and Justin Baldoni are on this film, and they're working together to bring it to the big screen. Now, this is where everything goes wrong. So people started to notice that Justin Baldoni, while doing his press run for the movie, was often doing it alone. He was doing interviews with all these talk shows, but he wasn't doing it with the rest of the cast. Whereas I don't know about everyone else, but I've definitely seen a few ads come up on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, promoting It Ends With Us, but it's usually Blake, Colleen, and the girl that plays the younger version of her. I don't know what her name is. You see more of the female leads alongside Colleen Hoover, but you really don't see Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni in the same room together, which yeah, maybe they have separate, touring schedules, whatever. but they are co-leads. They are romantic interests on this movie. You would imagine that at the very least they would be seen pictured together on the red carpet, which they were not. This sparked more conversation specifically at the red carpet premiere. The girl that plays Elisa was asked directly about Justin Baldoni and how it was like to work with him, not only as a fellow actor, but since he was the director, and she completely evaded the question. And some people were even saying that the girl that plays the younger version of Blake Lively, when she was in interviews, would only refer to him as the director.
A lot of people guess that. Even in my director session, my director asked if the mark was real.
She would not reference him by name at all, which people thought was really weird because she's an up-and-coming actress. You would think that she would be, kissing ass, licking toes. At the very least, that she would be more quote-unquote respectful for these more well-established actors in the industry, especially when one of them is your director. And apparently Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively were in separate theaters when the movie premiered, and he didn't even introduce the movie. So after seeing everything go down on the red carpet, people started really kind of going back and taking a harder look at everything that was going on in the press run for this movie. People specifically took note that in Justin's interviews and anytime he would talk about the movie, he was very much focused on the subject of DV. He would not shy away from it, and he would constantly talk about the nonprofit that he paired with for this movie.
So our friends at No More, I'm wearing their pin right now, they were the ones who really worked with me to help me make this film as truthful as possible.
And he talked very extensively about the messaging and what he wanted male viewers or viewers in general to take away from this film. Meanwhile, Blake Lively, oh God. So let's go through the chaos, crisis, and mess that Blake Lively finds herself in right now. The first thing that people took issue with is that while, promoting this movie that, although yes, is kind of marketed as rom-com, chick flick, whatever, is still a movie about DV and is still a movie that's meant to have an impact and a greater message besides romance, rom-com vibes, right? And yet she took this time. She thought that a movie about DV was the perfect backdrop to promote her hair care line, which one, I find ironic because I said this in my TikTok, but her hair kind of looked atrocious in that movie. That's all I'm going to say. And then B, people found it very tone deaf and that she was kind of dodging almost the subject of DV in her interviews. When people would ask her about it and she would talk about it in some interviews, it was A, very brief, and B, just not as in-depth and well spoken about as Justin Baldoni. You could tell the way Justin was talking about it, he handled it with a lot of care. You can tell that this is something that he's constantly thinking about when making this film, and it's not something that was an afterthought in any way. Whereas with Blake Lively, it was very surface level, in which when she's talking about these topics, her commentary is just yes, it's very emotional, it's very impactful, DV is bad. And that's it. That's the extent of what she thinks about the hard and heavy topics of this movie. Also, in a lot of the promotional videos, especially TikToks, YouTube shorts that they did for this movie, they really leaned into florals for some reason. I mean, the main character's name is Lily Bloom and she runs a flower shop, but they really took that and they ran with it. There was an interview with Colleen Hoover that I found, and it's her doing floral pairings with the characters. Honestly, that clip is so hilarious to me because A, she's staring into the camera wide-eyed as if someone threw her in front of there with no warning and just told her to talk about flowers. She's looking at the camera Ryle would be a rose because rose thorn and rose pretty. And then they brought on fans of the book or whatever. They brought on these people to just talk about flowers and watch clips of the movie. So people were just okay, flowers, I guess. Especially because there's also promotions that it was Blake and Colleen Hoover and they're staring at the camera and they're oh my God, get your tickets to watch It Ends With Us and be sure to wear your florals to the screening. That didn't sit well with a lot of people, and it definitely didn't sit well with me because I'm just it was very obvious that they were trying to manufacture a viral thing. For example, when Despicable Me came out and everyone was wearing suits, when Barbie came out and everyone was wearing pink, just something like that. But those happened independently. It was literally audiences just coming together on the internet and being oh my God, we're so excited for these movies, let's do this fun gimmicky thing. It wasn't manufactured by the people involved in the film. It was also extremely evident that they were trying to recreate and manufacture a Barbenheimer moment. So they tried to do the same thing, but with Deadpool, where it was like, oh my God, like It Ends With Us and Deadpool, Blake Lively, Ryan Reynolds. And I'm like, why? Because it was just like so inauthentic and it was just so weird, and people found it so weird because Ryan Reynolds for some reason was all over this movie. He's not even an actor in the movie. Ryan Reynolds apparently wrote some of the scenes in the film. Blake Lively said on the red carpet that he wrote the iconic rooftop scene at the beginning of the movie. So first and foremost, we have this script writer, Christy Hall, talking about the process of writing the script for this movie. Christy Hall turned in the final script for It Ends With Us shortly before the writer's strike. Of course, after the writer's strike, she went back for edits and revisions, and the movie went on. Apparently, in this interview with People magazine, Christy Hall found out at the red carpet that some of the changes in the final script that she originally thought were improvisations were actually written in there by Ryan Reynolds. She had no idea that he had made these changes in the actual script until the premiere, which I did find a TikTok talking about this, and I'll put the creator here, where she talked about that hypothetically in this situation, for Christy Hall to not know that these edits were made could suggest that Ryan Reynolds made these changes to the script during the writer's strike and therefore crossed the picket line. Again, that is alleged. We have no idea. But again, I do find it very weird that she didn't know that these weren't ad-libs and improvisations until the actual event. And it's only because Blake Lively said, hey, yeah, my husband, Ryan Reynolds, wrote that rooftop scene. But here comes the problem. Because Blake Lively mentioned that Ryan Reynolds had his hands in this project, it led people to speculate that maybe, perhaps, allegedly, Blake Lively as well as Ryan Reynolds were stepping on Justin Baldoni's toes and trying to override his power as the director. Because as I mentioned, the director is really in charge of forming the narrative. They have much more creative input, like they're the final say. Of course, Blake Lively is involved in the project. She is the lead actress. She is a producer. So of course, Justin Baldoni is going to take some of her suggestions into consideration. So how was Blake Lively able to override Justin Baldoni's power as the director? Well, first and foremost, Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds are much bigger actors in Hollywood compared to Justin Baldoni. They have much more influence and they've been around forever. Justin Baldoni's film company, Wayfarer, is a very, relatively smaller production company. This was a smaller budget film. So people were speculating that maybe Blake and Ryan were putting some financial backing into the film that allowed them to have more sway. As we know, in the trailer for It Ends With Us, a Taylor Swift song is actually in the movie, and it's very heavily speculated that since Blake Lively and Taylor Swift are best friends, that she got Taylor to give them permission to put the song in the film. So under this, again, hypothetical that Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds are putting up some kind of capital for this movie, it wouldn't be like a stretch to say that maybe they have more sway and influence on the creative decisions in the film. So people are speculating that there were immense creative differences between Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively, and that's the reason why the cast are so at odds with each other. This was also reinforced because people looked on Instagram and saw that Justin Baldoni is still following Colleen Hoover and Blake Lively, but neither of them follow him. And people are constantly bringing up this one clip of Justin Baldoni. When asked if he would direct the sequel, he said, I think there are better people for that.
I think Blake Lively's ready to direct. That's what I think.
So people are taking that clip and saying that this is proof that, she was stepping on his toes, and he seems kind of like he's biting his compliment of yep, she's ready to direct now. So up to this point, everything was, again, very heavily speculated on. It was just a lot of people on the internet taking, clips and piecing them together and saying this is the story, when obviously we don't have the full story. But now we have an article from the Daily Mail as well as Page 6 talking about Justin Baldoni. Apparently, a source came forward talking about the environment on set. So the Daily Mail published their article titled Disturbing, all caps, Truth behind why Blake Lively and her It Ends With Us stars are feuding with Justin Baldoni. A source told DailyMail.com Justin was, quote, unprofessional and chauvinistic on set. During scenes depicting abuse, Justin failed to consider Blake's character's perspective, instead focusing solely on what he believed was the abusive male viewpoint. His approach was very chauvinistic, creating a tense atmosphere on set. The source claimed Justin was, quote, borderline abusive on set and said he, quote, almost became the character. So first and foremost, let's get the elephant out of the way. The Daily Mail is not hard-hitting journalism. The Daily Mail is essentially TMZ, but just like slightly more morals. And the reason why they have this article posted before any other more reputable news sources is because they're not fact-checking. News outlets that are more reputable and more well-respected will take the time to vet their sources, go through the claims, and post as truthful as they can based on the information they have at their disposal. The Daily Mail posted this so soon after A, the movie came out, and B, conversations started circulating on the internet. So we have to take this with a grain of salt, obviously. I bring up this article because A, I don't know who this source is. B, I don't know how close to the movie this source is. But C, what they're saying is incredibly dangerous. This person makes claims, and again, these are direct quotes, saying that Justin Baldoni was borderline abusive and took on the characteristics of his character, which, need I remind everyone, Ryle, this character in the movie, was physically, emotionally, and abusive. To make the claim that this person was anyway acting in that manner without any kind of real evidence to back that up is so inflammatory because you can't compare someone to a literal abuser and then it's just like, oh yeah, well, he was mean. So this person also said parts of the film were rewritten under the instruction of Colleen. They had to be. He took their script decisions very personally, even though they weren't intended that way. They said things only got worse once he began to feel, quote, ganged up on by the women on set. His behavior extended beyond the main players, the source continued. Once he felt ganged up on, he became even less empathetic. So it's important that we kind of read between the lines based on what this person is saying, because even though they're shouting all this stuff about Justin Baldoni, when you really read it, it's saying something completely different. So what I'm seeing is that potentially, allegedly, hypothetically, Blake Lively had some creative inputs that she wanted in the film. She would get Colleen to back her up and probably a lot of the other actresses on the film. They would go to Justin, say, hey, this should be in the film, and they would kind of step on his toes, outnumber him despite him being the literal director so that they can have like Blake's input in this movie. They use the term ganged up on. They say that these women would gang up on him. I also don't like this because Justin Baldoni, his whole brand is that he is very like, dissecting masculinity, unlearning toxic masculinity. That's his whole brand. Part of unlearning toxic masculinity is being aware of your emotions, expressing emotions. So for this person to weaponize that and say that he took things personally, he became less empathetic and essentially was reducing him to like being like moody or temperamental. I find it like so telling the kind of language that this supposed source is using when talking about Justin Baldoni, especially because it's just so contradictory compared to the way that we've seen him on his press tours when he's talking about the movie. He specifically said that there were instances where he took a step back and allowed for the scene to be dominated by a female gaze. He knew when it wasn't his place to really give his input.
And I wanted to make sure this film always had a female gaze, and I was never putting myself into it. But one of the things that I think is very easy to say, especially for us men, is when we maybe talk to somebody who's in the situation, or we read a book, or we hear a news story, the question that's always asked is, why did she stay? And that's the wrong question.
Yeah.
What we need to be asking ourselves is, why do men harm?
And there was also an interview with the other male love interest, I forget what his actor's name is, and he explicitly said in this interview that Justin Baldoni created a very safe environment on set, which again directly contradicts what this source said. And I've seen some people on the internet say like, oh, well, this isn't uncommon. It's always men that are like the most loud and proud feminists that are actually secretly misogynists, and they're the worst kinds. And the reason that I'm willing to give Justin Baldoni the benefit of the doubt is because this has been his brand for a long time. He has a podcast. He's written a children's book. He has another book about masculinity and specifically learning about what it means to be a man and how the patriarchy has influenced how men perceive themselves in this world. As I mentioned earlier, he also made the film 5 Feet Apart, and I saw someone talk about how he specifically brought in people with cystic fibrosis to get their perspective and say like, hey, is this an accurate portrayal? So he is very well documented as someone that is willing to go that extra mile and is very aware of like their space and how they take up space in the world. Now, Blake Lively, I will say, speculated, alleged, I don't know. Blake Lively has kind of been documented as not a good person. Apparently, on the show Gossip Girl, Blake Lively got her co-star, her love interest in the show, fired. In an interview, it was kind of like he didn't want to say it, and then someone was like, oh, Blake Lively got you fired, and he was like, well, who knows? Maybe. I don't know.
Really? Literally, you said, get me out of this.
It was also like, get him out of here. Yeah,
oh, really?
Yeah.
So it just literally was that. Whose love interest were you?
I was Blake Lively's love interest.
You were?
Yeah.
Okay, well then.
Sounds like she was the problem.
It sure does, Chelsea.
No, that's not what I'm saying.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
But most people are really picking sides based on how they're perceiving their respective press runs, where Justin Baldoni is, again, going very hard into the messaging of this film, talking very openly about DV, providing resources, pairing with nonprofits, and just like not shying away from this topic. Whereas Blake Lively, Colleen Hoover, and a lot of the other actresses on the film have been promoting it as like a fun girls' night film, and they're not really preparing audiences for what they're gonna get into when they walk in the theater. And some people believe that the reason she's taking this approach with promoting the movie is because she's trying to secure an Oscar nomination. And that's also why Ryan Reynolds was helping to write it and had his filthy little fingers all over this. Again, no idea. I don't know. That was what some people were saying. I also do want to bring up, because someone did bring this to my attention and I can't not mention it, because at the end of the day, I hate defending a man. So Justin Baldoni, despite being, you know, very feminist, very like aware of women's issues and very outspoken, is also a constant visitor of a country that I would argue is not real. Now, Justin Baldoni has not mentioned anything since October 7th of 2023. At this point in time, now that we are in August, almost a full year after the start of this atrocity, I would hope that Justin Baldoni has something to say. Because again, we have creators like Zach from the Try Guys, who is Jewish and has visited Is Not Real and has gone through the effort of unlearning what he was previously taught and is making strides to help. So we've seen change from another major creator that is Jewish and has done the same things as Justin Baldoni. So I would hope that he would do the same things, but as of now, he has not said anything. He's been incredibly silent, and I cannot give him a pass for that. So I could not go without mentioning that, because I think it is very important that we have this perspective, because people want to go to bat for him. And, you know, I initially feel the urge like I want to go to bat for him, especially given the context of everything that's been going on, given the fact that I know that he is a feminist and that he is constantly outspoken about so many other issues. But I will not turn away from his blatant disrespect and disregard for what is currently happening. So we are in a lose-lose situation, and I attribute it to the Colleen Hoover curse. You cannot create a movie based on a Colleen Hoover book and expect that things are going to go well. Again, this is still ongoing. More things are coming to light, and some people are speculating that maybe this next week we'll hear more about what's going on behind the scenes, and we might get a statement from Justin Baldoni at some point. But I anticipate now that with the article from the Daily Mail that we might be hearing some kind of response. And who knows, maybe we'll find out who that source is. I know.
Hello,
I want to know.
Future Kristen. I'm here with an update. So Blake Lively has now posted on her Instagram story. Again, this is 5 days after the movie has already released. linking resources for domestic violence survivors and victims. So, of course, people are not receiving this well, despite her attempt at damage control. It just feels like too little too late for a lot of people, myself included. I mean, this movie already came out. Why wasn't this the first thing that was on your story? Or at the very least, like something you posted the day of? Like in Justin Baldoni's Instagram bio, he has linked these resources. So anytime you click on his account, it'll be the first thing you see. Why is this a story that's going to disappear after 24 hours? I don't know, suspicious.
But anyway, that's the end of the video. That's what we know so far. It's kind of a losing game. I'm not picking sides. I will extend the benefit of the doubt that maybe Justin Baldoni was creating a hostile work environment, but at the same time, I wouldn't go so far as to compare him to someone that is literally physically abusive. Blake Lively might not have a really good track record, and she has been described as a creative force. So I think that maybe she had a lot of inputs, but I'm not gonna speculate and say that she is a Hollywood mean girl, as a lot of people were saying that she is. Again, I don't know her. I don't know Justin Baldoni. All I know is their online presence. Justin Baldoni has been incredibly silent and likes to visit a country that is not real. Blake Lively got married on a plantation and supposedly ran an antebellum fan page. Honestly, the biggest betrayal of this movie is the fact that Hasan Minhaj is in it. How dare you? We were rooting for you. We were all rooting for you. Oh my God. But anyway, that's the end of the video. That's just the little update. I thought I would talk about it because I definitely hated this book and I was not planning on seeing the movie, but I had to talk about the drama. I can't believe we're having another Don't Worry Darling. The fact that these celebrities are beefing like they're in high school is kind of funny to me. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. Feel free to follow me on my socials. I'll try to keep up with everything. Please send me anything you have on this because I love to keep updated. Let me know. You can follow me at Variations of Listen to Kristen on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. Let me know what you think. If you're picking a side, if you're not, I don't care, but I would love to hear your input. Just let me know. I like talking to you guys. It's nice. Anyway, that's the end of the video. So thank you so much for watching. I will see you next time. Bye-bye.